Hey there, travelers. Kaylee Cuoco here. Sorry to interrupt your music, great artist BT Dubs, but wouldn't you rather be there to hear it live? With Priceline, you can get out of your dreams and into your dream concert. They've got millions of travel deals to get you to that festival, gig, rave, sound bath, or sonic experience you've been dreaming of. Download the Priceline app today, and you can save up to 60% off hotels and up to 50% off flights. So don't just dream about that trip. Book it with Priceline.
Go to your happy price, Priceline.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon Prime. From streaming to shopping, Prime helps you get more out of your passions. So whether you're a fan of true crime or prefer a nail-biting novel from time to time, with services like Prime Video, Amazon Music, and fast free delivery, Prime makes it easy to get more out of whatever you're into or getting into. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to learn more.
Unfiltered discussions, unexpected guests. No topic is off limits, from sex and relationships to the human condition, personal anxieties, and so much more. The only talk show of its kind in the world. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
Hello and welcome. Quick Wednesday tip. Send your friends a camel emoji because it's hump day. There's an emoji with one hump and two. You're welcome. It's helpful tips like that you're going to learn on a show like this. So tonight's program, here's what we'll cover. You ever feel like you're really bad at something and then later it turned out that you were actually fine at the task? Same. There is a science to that low self-esteem. Underconfidence and anxiety are infinitely intertwined. And we'll have a cognitive neuroscientist to talk to you about your doom spirals and why your brain may be undermining you at every turn. That'll be in about 10 minutes' time. Then, darkness. Some people fear it, others revere it, but celebrities are paying actual money for something to me that sounds like torture. Dark retreats. You pay to spend days alone in a pitch-black cave sort of thing with someone to guide you through the transcendent experience. Read horrific experience. We'll speak to somebody who runs those retreats and why some love them and others fear them. That'll be halfway through the hour. That is merely some of the show. We got some highly important news for you that we'll cover after we give you our phone number. Do call.
Want to be part of The Last Show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. Most shows deliver serious news that you can use. As a point of differentiation, we give you news you can't use. The Last Show, with David Cooper and special foreign correspondent, Tony Five.
And in fights happening outside of people's houses in the UK news, we are joined by foreign correspondent Tony Five to discuss a fight that just happened outside his house.
David, I've just got one word for you, my friend.
Oh, what is it?
Drama.
Drama or drama or drama, depending on your pronunciation. What's going on? There was a brawl outside of your home.
David, there was a brawl with a capital bruh. It was insane. Two females fighting outside my window. So I live in a cul-de-sac. Do you have cul-de-sacs?
Yes, we have cul-de-sacs in North America.
You do?
Yes.
What does it mean?
But it's just a dead-end street with houses only, yeah.
Dead-end street with some houses, right. So outside of my back window, I view a cul-de-sac. And on opposing sides of the street, one woman, I can describe her as portly, blonde. Do you like that word, portly? I don't think I've ever used it in a sentence. Have you ever done that, where you say a word and you realise you've never used that word out loud?
Sure.
Is that the word?
No, I've used the word sure before.
Okay, so I've never said portly, and I find I'm really happy with myself that I've said portly.
Is it sure or sure? Now I don't know what I say. Sure. Okay. She was someone who had some strength to her.
Well, she had a lot of port on her, portly.
Got it. She loves drinking port.
And next, and opposing her in the white corner was a tall blonde woman and very slim and blonde hair, wearing her pajamas.
In the streets.
In the streets. Bearing in mind, it's very late.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Fine. You get two women. Do you know what sparked the confrontation to begin with?
So this is a very English argument, okay? Now, I'll tell you what I heard, and this is genuinely what I heard, okay? You can keep your beans. So I don't know the context. Now, I told you, like, David, I usually come on here at a certain time with you and we chat. I said, David, I'm so sorry. I can't come on. Give me 15 minutes because the feds turned up.
The feds came and they were arguing. Do you think it was food related, or is this some idiomatic British thing where beans mean something else?
I know most idiots in British, so I would have known that. But I'm thinking, right, so that was I heard. You can keep your beans, right? Beeping beans. So this is the portly white woman on one side, and the skinnier white woman, doesn't matter the colour, we all like beans. On the other side, when, what did she say? She shouted back, oh, you can feed your husband them if you want, skank.
What? Is this over a can of beans?
So it can only, that's what I said. So was it over beans, right? As in baked beans. I can't imagine it being like haricot beans or, I mean, there's many beans, David, that we could argue about.
Do you think this started as a friendly, maybe potluck, where one woman was invited in a friendly manner to the other's house and brought beans, and then something happened?
Broad beans?
Brought.
Oh, okay. I've never heard of them. I've heard of broad beans. Okay, this is what I believe it to be, which sounds really, really dull now that I say it. But I think this is it. So earlier on today, we had our garbage trucks, our recycling vans turn up. And I think she put a tin of beans with the bean juice left in the beans in her recycling bin. The recycling man has told them off because you've got to remove, obviously, all the food waste from the cans, the aluminum.
You got to rinse off your recycling, otherwise they can't use it.
Right. And he's told the wrong woman off, like the beanless lady off, and the woman who had the beans. I can't work out who did what or where. You only see them arguing across the road, and then they start throwing stuff at each other, obviously not beans. What did she throw? I think she threw like stones from the floor because I couldn't see it. It was quite small.
Whoa, this is getting violent. This is escalating.
And then they met mid-street and start pushing each other.
Oh, wow.
Now, bearing in mind, there's the one who's on the left of me. So I'm looking out, I've got left and right, has got a little girl. So it's like quite serious now, right?
Oh, this is getting ugly.
Yeah, it's little girls watching. And then, so she tells the girl, like, turns around and screams. And the little girl says, go inside. So the little girl goes inside, the door's shut, like it's going to kick off now. And then just as they're meeting, the police just come swinging around the corner. And I was downstairs to try and break them up.
The coppers.
Coppers, yeah, the feds, the coppers. Boys in blue.
And did they break them up? Did they arrest these women?
Well, as soon as the cops turned round, and I was like maybe 5 foot away, and they were sort of back. I said, come on, ladies, just like, let's calm down. I don't know what this is about.
Oh, you went out there to get involved?
I didn't want them to fight in the middle of the street with a child out there, no.
Oh, wow. Did you get between them?
Oh, yeah, I stood in between them and said, come on, ladies, just I didn't get a chance to find out what the beef was about. I didn't get a chance to find out what the argument was, because as soon as the police turned up, I said, okay, guys, you look after this. I've got a show to do. There are people in North America waiting for me. Yeah, it was drama. It was what a fun-filled afternoon. And now, having spoken to you about it, I'm so curious at that bean statement. You can keep your like, what does that mean? And is it worth fisticuffs over, David?
Were there punches thrown or not quite, just shoving?
Not when I saw it, but there might have been.
Wow.
But they looked like the type of women, I don't know how to describe it without being offensive. They looked like the type of women who were unwashed and who would pull hair. Is that offensive?
No, I mean, I don't shower very often, so I take umbrage. But other than that, no.
Umbrage, David! You can take that umbrage.
I think you can describe as someone as unwashed without offending.
Yeah, so unwashed, and that they would pull each other's hair. Rather than fists, they would pull each other's hair, that sort of thing.
Did you worry when you get between people like that? Or you think, oh, I got judo, jujitsu, haiku, judo, taekwondo training?
Not really. I'm kind of relatively aware. I wouldn't say I've got like martial arts training, but for this, I wasn't even thinking that. I was just thinking of two women knocking each other's brains out in the middle of my street.
You didn't want to go out there and egg it on further for the purposes of content for the show, because had you have egged it on, you would have had more to say about it.
I mean, as I talk now, if I look out the window, the police car is still there.
Oh,
but I don't know where they are, whether they're in the back getting arrested or read their rights or whether they've been tasered. I don't know, David. I will report back tomorrow, my friend.
this truly was news that nobody can use. We really lived up to the explanation there.
Well, you can use it if you live on my particular block. So there's 18 of us here.
And you live on 123 Block Street, London, England?
Correct. 123 London Street, London.
Well, it was a thrilling odyssey. It was a real nail biter, but in the end, 2 women maybe got arrested.
Or possibly didn't and just went indoors, and the police are just biding their time here, having a sandwich.
I think I see flashing blue lights in your apartment. Could that be from the window?
Yeah, probably. I'm on the first floor as well, so they're very high.
Well, Tony, thank you. What a pleasure it was. Tony joins us reporting live from the scene of his apartment in London, England.
Thank you, people.
Think you suck at things even when you don't? We'll talk to a neuroscientist up next about why your brain might be the problem. I'm David Cooper. This is The Last Show.
Pro Paint Days are back at Lowe's, and My Lowe's Pro Rewards members can save even more with limited time deals. Right now, buy one, get one half off select HGTV Home by Sherwin-Williams Primer and Ceiling Paint. Plus, get free same-day delivery to your job site when you order by 2 p.m. Offer valid through 6/13, delivery by 8 p.m., subject to driver availability. Additional terms apply. See Lowe's.com/same-day delivery for details.
The only talk show with an introduction that mentions its own introduction. And that's happening right now in this introduction. The Last Show with David Cooper.
Begging for a mention. Yeah, you just want attention.
Do you feel like you're bad at everything, even when you're actually doing fine? Same, it's the story of my life, but it turns out that's not just low self-esteem. There's some science to it. Today we're talking about underconfidence, anxiety, and why your brain might be at fault for undermining your own success. I am joined with someone who studied this area. His name is Dr. Steve Fleming. He's a cognitive neuroscience professor at the University College London. Steve, my goodness, what a pleasure it is having you. We had a nice chat at the commercial break.
We did. Good to be here.
Let's get serious. I want to define a term before we start really digging into it. Metacognition. Why does it matter for people struggling with anxiety?
Yeah, so metacognition literally means thinking about your own thinking. So it's the way the brain monitors its own performance, our own skills and abilities. And when you are more anxious or depressed, then you tend to have underconfidence. Your metacognition seems to be somewhat off. So you think you are worse at things than you actually are. So that's clearly an important thing to look at when we're trying to understand how to remediate these mismatches between how you think about yourself and the actual reality.
I call it the metacognition doom spiral, when you're aware of your own lack of confidence and that makes you feel less confident. You're more aware of it. You become less confident because you're distracted by it. Because you're being less confident due to the distraction, you are, it's this horrible doom spiral. To me, that's like the definition of anxiety. But you found that people that have those symptoms often perform fine, not as bad as they think they're performing.
Yeah, so in our experiments on this, what we've been looking at is trying to quantify in the lab how people think about their own performance on simple tasks. So we gave them games to play that involved making judgments about what they saw on a computer screen or remembering simple items. And then occasionally they had to rate how confident they feel about making those decisions. And then they also had to estimate how well they performed across the whole experiment, across the whole game. And what we found was that people who had this bias towards thinking they performed worse, they weren't performing any worse. They were just as good at the task. But what seemed to explain the reason they felt worse about the performance is just that they weren't listening to their own instances of performing well. So there were times when they performed the task well, they felt confident about their performance in the moment. But by the end of the game, they'd essentially forgotten about those times when they were actually confident. They hadn't learned from them. And that sustain this negative self-perception that they have.
And people who did that were often categorized as anxious depressive or had anxious depressive symptoms?
Yeah, so this wasn't a clinical study. We weren't looking at people diagnosed with anxiety or depression, but we were looking in a large general population sample, and people filled out questionnaires about symptoms of anxiety and depression. And we found that people who had more of those symptoms were the ones who tended to be more underconfident. And they were also the ones who tended to learn less from their own instances of performing well.
So what are the big takeaways we can say about people with these anxious depressive symptoms? I know sometimes academics don't like to speculate or give an opinion. It's okay if it's just a hunch and it's not backed 100% by science. But what are some of the big takeaways we can say about people with those symptoms?
Well, we think one implication of this study is that a big source of these feelings of underconfidence are situations where we don't get feedback externally. So these are situations where we have to monitor how we are doing. This often characterizes much of daily life. We're not getting told explicitly that you scored, 80 out of 100 on a test like you do at school. Instead, you're having to get a sense of how well you think you're doing at your job or in other aspects of your life. So we think that it's in these cases where your metacognition can become distorted and you start thinking that you're performing worse than you actually are. So one quick fix for this is to actually ask for more external feedback from trusted friends, from trusted colleagues. And my hunch on this is that people will often find that they're performing better than they expect. And this can be powerful information for correcting some of those biases that might emerge from these distortions in metacognition.
So if I'm riddled with self-doubt, thanks Mom, by the way, but that's a conversation for somebody else. A real takeaway here is if I'm performing a task and I do not feel confident about it, ask for feedback along the way, like to sort of help myself, and maybe a takeaway for managers or teachers or people observing either at work, people who report to them, or at school, their students observing people struggling like this, give them a little feedback along the way.
Yeah, exactly. And in this experiment, we actually studied that where we gave occasionally in the game, we had an auditor come along and tell you, okay, on this particular decision, you got it right, or on this particular decision, you got it wrong. And what we found was that people who were more underconfident and had more of these anxiety and depression symptoms, they were just as sensitive to the feedback as everyone else. So getting a piece of positive feedback boosted their confidence just as much as it did for other people. So we think that it's not that the distortion there is in terms of how you process the feedback, it's in terms of how you evaluate yourself when feedback is not available. So absolutely, I think one lesson for this, one practical lesson, is that perhaps we need to be focused on those opportunities to give people who may be suffering from these signs of underconfidence more positive feedback when they're actually performing well.
Your experiment and those that did well despite thinking they didn't, it sounds a lot like imposter syndrome, which I think gets talked about a lot. Are the results reflecting quite the same concept, or are they subtly different?
I think they're broadly similar concepts. Imposter syndrome is often talked about in a specific context, like in the workplace or in relation to cases where you need a particular skill for a job and you think you haven't got it and you're just faking it and everyone else hasn't found you out yet, for instance. So often imposter syndrome is talked about in these more specific terms, but I think the source of those feelings of underconfidence, the feelings that you don't have the skills or abilities you need, probably do have a common source in metacognition, in thinking how confident you are in different aspects of your performance.
Interesting. So perhaps a antidote or a way to deal with imposter syndrome is similar to this experiment, asking for feedback along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think people often who are prone to suffer from those feelings that they're not good enough in the workplace or in other aspects of their life, often they will get into what you referred to earlier, that kind of doom loop, where all you're relying on is yourself and your own thoughts about yourself, and you're not seeking out some corrective external perspective.
Yeah, I also get the doom spiral with symptoms of anxiety, like I think I'm sweating, or I think my mouth is dry, or I think I'm shaking. And then the more I think about it, the less distracted I am from the task, and then the less good I get at the task because I'm thinking about my anxiety symptoms. I get into a lot of death spirals, Steve. It's just something that happens to me.
I mean, the thing with metacognition is that we think it's multi-layered, right? So you're building up these views of yourself, and that covers a whole range of different signals, bodily signals, signals from how you're performing. And the problem is you're needing to learn from all those different signals. And if there are distortions in that learning, then you'll be in this loop where you're just getting a more and more distorted view of yourself. And that's where the external perspective, talking to someone else, friends, family, colleagues, can be really, really helpful.
All right. Well, any listeners out there can text in how we're doing at 1-888-505-6644. Hopefully it's a good text. Steve, this was an interesting chat. I've enjoyed speaking with you, and thanks for spending some time with me on the show.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks so much.
Dr. Steve Fleming is a cognitive neuroscience professor at University College London in England. A new fad with tech elites, they're paying thousands to sit alone in pitch black silence for days with just minimal guidance from sort of a spiritual counselor. After the break, we'll head into the dark where hallucinations, healing, and horror all wait for something called darkness retreats. Would you want to take one?
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
Summer's here, and Nordstrom has everything you need for your best dress season ever. From beach days and weddings to weekend getaways and your everyday wardrobe. Discover stylish options under $100 from tons of your favorite brands like Mango, Skims, Princess Polly, and Madewell. It's easy too with free shipping and free returns, in-store order pickup, and more. Shop today in stores, online at Nordstrom.com, or download the Nordstrom app.
We work hard to strike the right amount of intelligence and ignorance. The last show with David Cooper.
Darkness. Some people fear it, others revere it. Others still pay to spend days alone in pitch black isolation. My next guest runs something that is called dark retreats, which are places where people are guided through introspection, visions, and confronting their deepest selves. In the dark, what awaits inside? I'm here with Scott Berman, creator of Sky Cave Retreats, to discuss if this might be for you. Scott, welcome to the show.
Thanks, David. Thanks for having me.
I remember walking on the street when I used to live in San Francisco, and I walked by this place that was charging a lot of money to be in sensory deprivation tanks. And I thought to myself, seems like a lovely thing to do. But when I really thought of it, I thought people are paying to be tortured. I mean, that's how they torture people in some countries. I know pitch black retreats aren't the same thing, but for me, it doesn't seem like something I would want to do. So walk me through what it is. Maybe we can change my point of view here.
Yeah, well, one of my first questions would be, why? Why isn't that something you want to do?
I don't know. I think my default position is I hate everything as a curmudgeon, but maybe that's something I need to let go of through confronting my curmudgeonliness. I don't know.
Is it something you want to let go of?
Oh, yeah. My girlfriend calls me a misanthrope, and she's like, and you don't want to change. I suppose having a default of skepticism might be serving me in some way, but probably I'd be a better person if I changed it. So yes.
Well, skepticism about what?
Oh man, I'm loving this. I'm happy to talk about me. It's my least favorite subject. New experiences that would seem uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I'm generally skeptical of, yeah. Like I don't want to skydive, but I know if I did it, I would probably be a more comfortable in my own skin because I will have overcome the big fear of mine, heights and flying and whatnot.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, who's it for is people who are curious about confronting themselves.
I guess I am.
But that really has to be a movement in them. There really has to be a genuine curiosity of confronting themselves and seeing where they actually are. Like, how much do we live in our fantasies, our hopes, our dreams, and the idea of where we're at and who we are? And how much do we really see ourselves where we're at when we're like stripped of our status, our money, our power, how we show up in the world, how others view us, how we're validated, how we kind of distract ourselves unknowingly the moment that we're uncomfortable. Like what happens when none of that's here and we see ourselves exactly as we are? That is very scary and is going to take somebody who really wants to see what's here.
I know if you strip it all away, I'm just going to be a scared little boy, afraid of the world. I'm scared to become that boy that I know that I am. Maybe that's why these things seem so off for me.
Well, I'd say that the people who really drop into the dark, who really meet the darkness, who really come into new ways of being, new perspectives that they embody, are the people who are willing and able to admit that they are scared.
Oh, yeah. My default is scared. Like, it's kind of a superpower, right? It's like the Hulk's always angry. I'm always afraid of the world, which makes me incredibly confident as a public speaker. Because this interview right now with you makes me as nervous as I have to speak in front of 1,000 people. It's all the same to me. I'm always at a 10. I'm always freaked out.
All right. So one of the differences, though, in the dark with the fear is, what if it's okay to be afraid and you don't try to change it? So this is the difference, is in the kind of our default, everyone's default mode. I wouldn't think that you'd be any different than other people. Maybe you're able to admit that you're afraid. Most people aren't. But like then the next kind of nuanced kind of unraveling or uncovering, if you will, is like we're afraid, but then we're doing something to, in a sense, overcompensate or protect or defend, some kind of mechanism that insulates us from being totally vulnerable and exposed to the fear. We're getting louder or bigger. People are going to freeze. People get smaller. There's some doing to manage the fear. But what if it's okay to be afraid and you don't try to change it? What happens in your system when you truly meet the fear of the unknown, of being uncomfortable, of being exposed, and you don't try to change it? And what if you really have the support that holds you in a way that it's like, hey, David, what if it's okay to be afraid and we were just right here with it? What would happen then? And that, most people have no idea what would happen then.
I'm loving that we're doing the deep stuff first, but let's take a few steps up. Let's talk about the mechanics of these dark retreats. What is it like? What am I doing when I'm at one? Walk me through how it works on a kind of a high level.
Sure. So we have these caves, if you will. They're man-made caves, but we've built them like they are caves in a sense, where they're built into the hillside. When you look at them, it resembles more of like a hobbit home. And so they're dug out into the earth. You open a door, you walk down a few steps, and then there's kind of like an anteroom, if you will, that's not dark. It's kind of the room before the darkness. It's where I go in to bring the food, to tend to the heat in the winter. There's a little double light sealed pass-through door where we put the food in. And then somebody walks in and it's about a 300 square foot room. There's a bathroom. There's a bathtub for hot baths. There's a zero gravity chair and an open space to roll around, a foam roller and a yoga mat. There's a bed and a little area to sit and eat food. And somebody goes in there. Somebody typically comes, they're here in total 5 days, 6 nights, and they have 24 hours to kind of settle in once they arrive, weave in and out of the dark. There's a 2-hour kind of intro prep session with my other teammate, and then they go into the dark. They have 3 days, 4 nights in the dark, and every morning and evening I come up and we have a touch-in that may last from 5 minutes to 45 minutes. We're talking through the door. I'm not entering into their space. And then they emerge and they have another 24 hours to kind of integrate. They have another 2-hour session with my teammate to kind of integrate, process, digest what's still stimulated in their system, deepen into what they've newly come to know. And that, in a nutshell, is the experience here.
Is it 100% dark in that room? Like I've got to figure out how to use the toilet and eat and take
Yes. You don't see your hand in front of your face. It's also like 95% soundproof. You might every once in a while hear a little sound. It might be like 10 or 20 seconds of a 24-hour day. Other than that, it is utterly silent and completely dark. You don't see your hand in front of your face. However, what most people come to see is that the darkness isn't really just this dark stagnant, inky pool. It is like alive. It's moving. Some people see colors, images, and it's pulsing. Like there's an aliveness in there.
There's some speculation, I don't know if there's like peer-reviewed study, but that your brain releases chemicals like DMT and you kind of have these vague hallucinations in the dark. Is that something that anecdotally some people have?
Yeah, I mean, I think it could be a stretch to say it's DMT. I think people want to say that's happening. It hasn't been proven, so who knows what's actually happening, but there are definitely very clear brain chemistry shifts that happen for people while they're in there. Some people have big visuals and visions and stuff, but I'd say it's a very small percentage. And when people go in and that's what they want to have, they get very disappointed because it's really the simplicity, the subtleties, the confrontation, kind of the womb-like nature that really is what it opens people into something completely new.
Is everyone ready for this? I've read a report of some tech founder fleeing early. Can everyone be ready for an experience like this, or can it be really intense for some?
I would say everyone is not ready to see themselves where they actually are and genuinely have the capacity to be with themselves where they actually are.
Well, people can find out more about Sky Cave Retreats at skycaveretreats.com. I'm here with Scott Berman, the creator of that. Scott, what a great chat. I really like how deep we got at the beginning there. I appreciate your time.
Thanks, David.
After the break, one of the great things about being a broadcaster is inviting specialists on this show and soliciting advice for free. And to that end, we'll have a veterinarian on to deal with our foreign correspondent's dog problem. This dog scooting his butt all around the home, leaving stinky residue. We'll find out how to fix this problem and use all sorts of colorful language for educational purposes up next.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
With a Venmo debit card, you can Venmo more than just your friends. You can use your balance in so many ways. You can Venmo everything. Need gas? You can Venmo this. How about snacks? You can Venmo that. Your favorite band's merch? You can Venmo this. Or their next show? You can Venmo that. Visit venmo.me/debit to learn more.
You can Venmo this, or you can Venmo that. You can Venmo this, or you can Venmo that. You can Venmo.
The Venmo MasterCard is issued by the Bancorp Bank N.A. pursuant to license by MasterCard International Incorporated. Card may be used everywhere MasterCard is accepted. Venmo purchase restrictions apply.
Broadcasting intimate details and useless information from an undisclosed location in New York City. The last show with David Cooper.
It is Vet Talk. Pet Talk, it is something. We are here to discuss all things pets and their glands in their rear ends. Here with Tony Five, our foreign correspondent. Tony, welcome.
Hello, Dr. Clifford, the big red dog. How are you?
And Dr. Cliff Redford.
Excellent, man. I have never heard that. Wow, that's the first time
I know
anyone's ever called me that. I love the British dry humor. Ha ha ha.
I know you're a vet. Just tell me, what was Nam like?
It was tough, man. It was tough,
Yeah. Do you get support out there? I know a lot of vets don't. They're just left abandoned. But you look really clean. You look amazing.
Thank you.
There must be a charity like Vets for Vets, and it's unclear whether it's veterans raising money for pets or veterinarians raising money for vets who aren't being supported enough by their government.
I'm sure there is. I'll do a quick story about that, at least being misunderstood. As you know, David, I box. I do amateur boxing. And my last match, I won. And, there were these old dudes. And the commentator was like, give it up for these two old guys. They got real jobs. Tony here is a plumber, runs his own business. And the winner is a vet. And everybody cheered like crazy.
Oh, my God. Did they all say thank you for your service?
Yeah, they take off their hats and they sing the national anthem. And
They didn't, but I was just like, no. I mean, I think if I said, no, I'm a veterinarian, they'd be just like, whatever.
What about old vets, veteran vets for vets? Because we have old people called veterans here.
Yeah.
Not really fought in anything. They're just old.
They fought life. I don't know.
I honestly think Larry David did it best in Curb Your Enthusiasm, where he had a dinner and somebody's like, I'm going to invite a survivor. And Larry thinks it's a World War II survivor.
Holocaust survivor, yeah.
But the person invited was a contestant on the TV show Survivor.
Oh.
And then at the dinner party, the two of them get in a fight.
I thought you were going to tell the episode where he forgot to say thank you for your service to a army guy, a retired army guy. And then the retired army guy got upset and everyone got mad at Larry and, because he was being insensitive. And he was just like, well, everyone has already said it. I mean, it's like, I just wanted to say nice to meet you. And then the entire episode was about him trying to make up for it.
I got to rein this in. Cliff is a veterinarian. Tony just adopted a dog. Discuss.
So, Cliff.
Free advice.
Basically, speaking to an actual veterinarian here in the UK costs upwards of $100 an hour. David said he knew a veterinarian, not a vet. I had no questions about war. So I thought, you know what, I'll use my platform. Do you like my use of platform, David?
Sure. Yeah, this is free veterinarian advice. It's almost like It's the first time Cliff has been on the show for this. No way. I try to get a cat help for free all the time, but now
all the time.
Tony's got a dog. He wants in on the free advice.
So very, very dissimilar to a dog is a cat. But basically, I have adopted Frank von Frank III. He is a Staffy Cross Lab. But I've done that, that swab you can do, like 23andMe, but it's like 47 and her. You know, that one where you can find out whether it's a dog or a cat or a lion.
Sure.
So that's going off, so I'll know exactly what he is. And he's lovely, 13 months old, beautiful dog. He was abandoned twice in London. And when they scanned his chip, they said that this dog was dead.
Okay.
So I've got like a resurrected dog. He's incredible, like the second coming. But what he does is he sits on his bum and he pulls himself along on my carpet sometimes.
Okay.
No, it's David. Doctor will tell you that this is a real thing.
Yes.
It's called scooting, isn't it?
Scooting, yes.
Right.
Scooting?
Scooting.
I Googled it. Obviously got the wrong website because something called anal glands came up. Now, I had to turn off my computer. My girlfriend was around. But then David said he's going to talk to you. Discuss. Tell me everything, young man.
No, I think you got the right website, as long as it was dog anal glands. So dogs and cats have these little sacs just inside the rectal ring, the sphincter ring. And
Cliff's a doctor, so we're not doing anything indecent right now. Just have to reiterate, this is educational for all the censors and the government agencies out there listening.
He said ring, David.
He said ring. That's right. And they contain this oily, pungent material, this foul-smelling material. We don't really know why they have anal glands. Probably for no purpose. It's probably leftover kind of vestigial organs from when they were related to some ancient skunk, some prehistoric skunk.
He said vestigial, David.
Yeah, it's like the kidneys or the brain. It's these organs that we evolved to have that we don't need.
Appendix, isn't it? Appendix is one of them.
That's exactly, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Appendix. Kidneys, brain, and appendix.
Appendix and sense of humor, sense of sarcasm.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh my gosh.
You can get in a word, you just have to fight.
I'm not getting paid enough for this.
You just have to fight to get the word in edgewise is all. All right, so they got these glands.
So if these glands get obstructed, they fill up too much, they get sore, maybe they get infected, they get itchy. And so he needs to scratch his butt, and he's decided to use your shag carpet to leave little streaks. And there you go. And if it continues to be a problem, you need to do a digital rectal exam and squeeze those anal glands out.
Is that on the computer? I've got an iPad.
You could squeeze them out onto your computer. You could squeeze them out onto your window. Wherever the stuff squirts is where it lands.
I've heard that it's really badly smelling.
Yes, you've heard correctly.
Just so this can be educational and we don't all get fired for this, if your dog has this problem and they're doing it to the point where your carpet's getting stained, your house smells, it's annoying you, it's disgusting, what can you do? I guess you take the dog to the vet and the vet manually expresses them?
Yes.
Yeah, or you could bug your American show host and try and get some free advice on his podcast, radio show, whatever it is.
Relatable advice for everybody. Everyone can do what Tony is doing right now.
You do need to go see your veterinarian because it should be squeezed out sort of with a someone that's educated, 6 to 8 years of higher education. That's what I get to do. I get to squeeze out butt pimples on dogs. And then the big question is, why does this happen? Now, if it happens once every couple of years, we don't care. It's not common enough. We don't worry about it. But if it starts to happen regularly every 6 to 8 weeks, actually the the most common reason is food allergies.
Yes.
About 75% of dogs with food allergies have ear infections and or bum infections. We call it the ears and rears disease.
You vets have a sense of humor second to none.
We're so funny. We don't get taken seriously, so we use humor as a defense mechanism. So yeah, have your vet check it out if Frank Von does it more often, and there you go. And if you have the third at the end of your dog's name,
yes,
the bill is extra because you're obviously rich.
It's weird, right? So from what you said, it doesn't smell and there's no discharge. So do you think he could just be doing it for fun?
That's possible. I mean, have you taught him how to wipe his bum? He just might have a little Klingon there stuck to his tush.
No, he's very, very clean. There are some nights I just stare at his butt and
just amazed.
It's like hypnotizing.
We're getting out of the educational territory.
This is what our job is like.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Cliff, because that was really I really genuinely appreciate that. Frank does as well.
Why does he keep doing quotation marks with his fingers when he says doctor?
Yeah.
I don't like this guy.
I mean, as you know, David, I do have my veterinary qualification from Groupon.
Yeah, Tony did a 5-minute Groupon, and now he's a vet.
What language is he speaking? I can't understand him.
Unclear.
Well, it's the king's language, my friend. You thoroughbreds don't know the meaning of a pure thoroughbred.
Gotcha.
Just to rein it in so we can justify the use of the phrase anal gland and sphincter. If your dog does it once in a while, it's a normal dog thing. If it's happening regularly, maybe talk to your vet, maybe consider changing your dog's diet. Is that the verdict on this one?
You're brilliant, man. Good job.
Yeah, he doesn't do it on the wood floor because I'm guessing you get a splinter.
Maybe.
Yeah.
When we come back with Cliff, we'll debate whether people actually do look like their dogs or not. Thank you, Tony 5 in London, England. I'm David Cooper. This is The Last Show. More vet talk or pet talk in a moment.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. Knowing you could be saving money for the things you really want is a great feeling. Talk to a State Farm agent today to learn how you can choose to bundle and save with the Personal Price Plan. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices are based on rating plans that vary by state. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability, amount of discounts and savings, and eligibility vary by state.
Your above-average intelligence brought you here. It deserves above-average absurdity. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
I remember in the 90s, there was this commercial on television that showed dog owners and their dogs, and they looked exactly alike. And so from that moment, in my memory, and maybe in yours, I've just always thought owners look like dogs. I don't know how true it is, though. And scientists have investigated this, and we'll discuss that with Dr. Cliff Redford on Pet Talk. He is a veterinarian. Check out his podcast, Vet Life with Dr. Cliff. Cliff, welcome in.
David, thank you for having me.
Before the break, you met our foreign correspondent in London, England, Tony 5. What a trip that guy is, huh?
What a pain in the butt that segment was. Pain in the butt.
I think you'll be able to get in maybe 1 or 2 words, which will be 1 or 2 more than you got in last segment.
Jeez, those British, they steal all your artwork and then they steal your time, man. What the heck?
They take over your country, they steal your artwork, and then they talk too much.
That's pretty much it. There you go.
People looking like their dogs, is this more a confirmation bias thing? There's the occasional owner that seems to look like their dog, and then we think everyone does? Or is it kind of true?
Well, I mean, so this is regarding an article where let's call it more of it's not a study. They reviewed 15 studies showing that people have similar personality traits to their dogs and similar physical appearances. And at first, it's just confirmation bias. But then they actually did another study where they took like a group of dogs and a group of people, like just photos, and then random strangers had to line them up who owned which. And for the vast majority of the times, they guessed correctly. And because they were sort of looking at shape and appearance, and it just sort of things clicked. And so people did sort of look like their pets. They have found that in these studies, women with long hair pick dogs with long ears. Women with short hair pick dogs with short ears. Okay, that makes sense. Now, there's always the very uncomfortable part in my exam room conversation when I have to talk about an obese dog and the owner is also obese. I got to remember not to say, well, as you know, Mr. Smith, being obese is really dangerous for one's health. I got to make sure I don't say that. But they do find a correlation with body mass index in pets, but that makes sense because if you're not one to exercise, you're not going to exercise your dog and they're going to get heavy. But the cooler thing, I think, is the personality traits. And they have found exactly that, if a person is antisocial, the dog's probably antisocial. If a person is anxious, the dog's anxious. If the person is quick to laugh and have a good time, the dog is likely hyperactive and quick to laugh and I don't know if dogs laugh. I should know if dogs laugh.
My cat is very neurotic, and so are me and my girlfriend Miranda. As you speak, I'm thinking.
Exactly. So I was going to ask that about Tomato. I mean, Tomato, it's with cats, they don't really look like their owners because cats are just cats. There's really just color variations and hair length variations. But obviously there's a bit of a nature and nurture thing going on here. If you are naturally sort of introverted and you go to pick an animal at the shelter, adopt, don't shop, you're going to pick one that's quieter. You're not going to pick this hyper slobbery dog or this super kinetic cat. But then there's also the nurture part of it, that if you are a neurotic person, your animal, especially dogs, much more than cats, your animal is going to pick up on that neuroses and become a little bit neurotic themselves. So the very, very short answer from this incredibly long conversation is yes, they sometimes look alike, and yes, they pick up on your traits.
That is so interesting. I mean, he was kind of bright, bubbly, and a little neurotic at the pound, and we really liked his personality, and that's why we chose him. So there's a bit like people are drawn to things similar to them, personality traits that are similar to them, also visual things that are similar to them, long hair, size,
Yeah. And experts believe it has something to do with sort of like an evolutionary psychology, in that we as people naturally are attracted, and I don't mean sexually, are naturally drawn towards people that have similar physical and behavioral traits as us. And it allowed us to survive back in the prehistoric age if we could work together better and we weren't constantly nagging about where we put the stick or the rock or how we built the fire, right? So we are just naturally attracted towards creatures, dogs, cats that are similar to us.
So it's not that we pick a pet or a pet is born and somehow it's not like us, and then it magically through genetic molding or mutations that happen while you own it turns into you. That's a bit of a far-fetched explanation, but one of the explanations is our bias towards things that are like us.
Correct.
Interesting. All right, so, and they did find that there was a link between pets seeming like or looking like their owners, but it's not like overwhelming. It's not like every pet is going to be a reflection of their owner.
Correct.
All right, cool. I mean, that's interesting.
Pretty simple. It was fun.
Interesting to know. Let's talk pet allergies, because a lot of people suffer from them. Miranda gets the springtime. My girlfriend gets the springtime. What do you call it? Pollen. She's all stuffy. Do pets kind of suffer from the same thing?
Yeah, they do. And we try not to call it seasonal allergies with dogs and cats because it's sometimes year round. It's more technically called atopic dermatitis or atopy or inhalant allergies. And have you noticed on that term, dermatitis is the main thing. So they breathe in, let's say it's springtime, they're breathing in certain pollens, could be birch trees, could be maple trees. I don't think ragweed's a problem right now. But any of those sort of airborne pollens, dust, mold, fungus, whatever, but it doesn't cause itchy eyes and sneezing like you and I get. It causes itchy skin, and it's not a contact allergy. It's literally they inhale it. It causes this change in these immunoglobulins, these sort of immune system proteins that cause this inflammatory reaction of the skin. And basically, they will get itchy feet, itchy sort of trunk, underarms, in the groin, basically the lower half of the body. And it can be mild, where you don't really have to do much. You just let it ride its course. Or it can be so severe where it is year round. They get these secondary fungal and bacterial infections. They have to go see a veterinarian dermatologist, a board certified specialist in skin disease. They will get tested to see what they're allergic to. There's usually a bunch of them. And then they end up getting allergy shots. They get it's called immunotherapy, these allergy serums made up specifically for this is primarily a dog condition. Cats generally don't get this. So there's varying degrees of severity. There's varying degrees of treatment, everything from supplementation and shampoos and all these different things that we can talk about if you want. But yes, inhalant allergies, I almost called it seasonal. Inhalant allergies are a common problem in dogs.
This happened to my brother's dog. He would eat the allergens or breathe them in somehow. It would weaken or change somehow the immune system, which leads to the irritated skin, skin to the scratching to infection, the infection to it's now a problem where he's got a bald patch that's red and has to do exactly what you just described.
You could be a veterinarian.
Thank you.
It's not hard.
No? Well, no. Cliff, no offense, but obviously.
Yeah.
Well, actually, some offense.
I don't take it. It's a good thing you're so far away from me, man. I can come and see you.
You are dead wrong. I am not anywhere near as smart as you.
There you go.
But I think these are helpful things for people to hear.
And some simple stuff. Get your dogs on omega fatty acids. These are healthy oils that protect the health of the skin and avoid those secondary bacterial and fungal infections. Talk to your veterinarian about certain shampoos. And then if it's really, really bad, then you need real drugs.
Find out more about Dr. Cliff Redford at drcliff.ca. Cliff, it was a pleasure having you on the show.
Thanks, man. It was fun.
Who ghosts and why? That is when you're kind of dating someone or chatting with them after matching on an app and they just stop texting you. Maybe you spent the night with them and then nothing. What's the psychology behind it? And who's more likely to ghost than not? Answers in a few moments.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
The spirit of innovation is deeply ingrained in America, and Google is helping Americans innovate in ways both big and small. The Air Force Research Laboratory is partnering with Google Cloud using AI to accelerate defense research for air, space, and cyberspace forces. This is a new era of American innovation. Find out more at g.co/American innovation.
Your procrastination deserves a destination. Welcome to the last show with David Cooper.
Ghosting, breadcrumbing, sort of a fun, silly topic, but ghosting really seems to upset people and draw dramatic reactions when it happens to them. I'm here with somebody who studied it, who's more likely to do it than others. Her name is Dr. Alexandra Cobzeanu. She's a lecturer and psychologist at the Alexandru Ioan Cuza University in Romania. Alexandra, thanks for talking to me.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's something we talk about jokingly amongst friends. It's interesting to me that you decided to look into ghosting in this academic context. How would you even define it for the purposes of an academic paper?
Well, first of all, breadcrumbing is also commonly known as the Hansel and Gretel phenomenon. So it's like leaving breadcrumbs in a relationship. I like you, I like talking to you, but let's just postpone the actual physical meeting. And yes, we joke about it amongst our friends, but we also talk about it at the university, and we used to talk about it a lot. So that's why I decided to choose this as my postdoctoral program main topic, along with phobbing, which is also an interesting term and an interesting phenomenon. When you're constantly, checking your phone while somebody is talking in front of you and say, yeah, you just go, I'm just gonna, check a message or something. I'm just gonna leave a breadcrumb in my online relationship. So these are new phenomena, but they're daily happening. And I see that among the students I meet every year. I've also listened to my 10-year-old daughter say this, I'm just not going to answer this message. I'm not interested anymore. And I was like, well, you should let that person know that you don't want to talk with him or her anymore. And she went like, yeah, but I don't have to do it. And I was like, yeah, you do.
Wow. I sometimes feel lucky growing up in the 90s and early 2000s when cell phones and texting weren't around. I'm amazed that 10-year-olds are doing this.
Yes, in our times, we just didn't go to that place anymore. Well, today it's a lot more interesting than that. So because of the emergence of these phenomena, and they became so common, I decided to go into more deep and research the possible predictors of these behaviors. And due to my background as a moral psychologist, I decided to look more into the moral disengagement mechanisms and whether or not they would actually predict this. And our research showed that, yep, if we are morally disengaged or more inclined to consider our behavior as morally explainable in some way, we are more prone to do that. Also, if we are depressed or anxious or stressed, we are more likely to ghost other people or to use breadcrumbing as a online dating technique, but with no actual meeting.
So if someone receives this kind of attention or lack thereof, they're more likely to feel bad about themselves, more likely to enter a cycle of doing it to others, is what you found?
Yes, actually, we explained our results through the lenses of the cycle of violence theory. It's like in cyberbullying or any other form of bullying, but especially in online contexts. If we are victims of such behaviors, we are more inclined to do that to other people as well. And it's not only about bullying. We see that in our everyday behavior. And I think that's the most important finding of our research.
Is breadcrumbing or occasionally texting someone, could it be considered harmless flirtation, or is it manipulative? Or I guess, can it be both?
Well, it can be both. I think the other person should respond to that. It depends on the intention and how the other person perceives your behavior, because they might think that they're in an actual romantic relationship or a genuine friendship or a real connection-ish. But you might just be bored, or you might be so insecure that you just can't move forward into that relationship, because the reasons behind these behaviors are very complex. But the most common are fear of rejection sensitivity, though in our study it wasn't an actual statistically significant predictor, but other studies suggested that the more sensitive we are to being rejected, the more prone we are to ghost other people, because this way we can avoid being dumped or rejected, or ghosted.
Fair enough, but if ghosting leaves someone hurt and confused, I mean, most people know that. I would hazard to say most people know that it leaves the other person feeling hurt and confused. I suppose some are naive and don't realize that. Why is it so common? Is it avoidance? Is it just not caring? What are some of the reasons people ghost?
It's also a coping mechanism and a protective mechanism, especially in the online world. We can be anybody we want, right?
Sure.
On the internet and social media. So we might just think, using the moral disengagement mechanisms, of course, that it might not be as harmful as one would think because, it's online. So I'm just going to not answer the message. That's it. I'm just going to disappear. Just like I appeared online in your life, I have the right to disappear. The phenomenon, the ghosting and breadcrumbing are very complex. But I think the online environment and the digital world make them so complicated.
Given your findings, do you have any advice to young adults who are navigating online dating today? I feel like that's the predominant way that people meet others these days. Any advice for how to conduct yourself to avoid perpetuating these, I guess, bad behaviors?
Sure, of course. You have to. I advise my students and my daughter and my children as well to always be responsible and to show some empathy, even in the online environment. You can be anybody you want, but you can still hurt as in the real world, as in the physical world. So always think how the other person would feel. How would you feel? How did you feel? Because you've probably been ghosted before. That's why you do it.
Of course I have. If you could get rid of one magically, ghosting or breadcrumbing, because of the negative impact it has on people, which one would you make go away in our culture?
Definitely ghosting. I think it's way more hurtful because you don't have the closure, you don't have an explanation, you don't have cognitive clarity. You will always remain with the question, why? That's the most difficult part, especially with people like me, for instance, who do not tolerate uncertainty. I have to know. And I think there are a lot of people like me. Okay, you don't like me, but I have to know why so I can move on. The not moving on because you don't know why you have been ghosted, I think that's the most difficult part.
Dr. Alexandra Cobzeanu is a lecturer and psychologist at Alexandru Ioan Cuza University in Romania. Alexandra, thanks for talking to me again.
Thank you for inviting me.
Well, now's as good a time as any to tell you that if you like what you hear but you've just tuned in, or you missed a night of the last show and you want to get caught up on our catalog, good news, the show is available as a podcast. Just head to www.lastshow.pizza. That's lastshow.pizza, not .com. And there you can find out details about our podcast and how to subscribe, which I would like you to do. But I can't force you to do because I'm not your mother. After the break, it's Therapy Thursdays on a Wednesday, broadcasting's only mental health specific content intended for a Thursday that airs on a Wednesday. Tonight's topic, contradictory parenting advice. Whether your parents acted this way or you're a parent yourself, things like, let your kid cry it out, or never let your kid cry, it causes trauma. Both get peddled as advice, they contradict, and things like that we'll cover in just a few moments.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
The NBA playoffs are here, and I'm getting my bets in on FanDuel. Talk to me, Chuck GPT. What do you know?
All sorts of interesting stuff, even Charles Barkley's greatest fear.
Hey, nobody needs to know that.
New customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets if you win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
21 plus and present in Virginia. Must be first online real money wager. $5 deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expires 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
When your therapist won't take your calls anymore, there's always the last show with David Cooper.
Do this, do that. Contradictory parental advice that people often hear. It can be from books, your grandparents, online forums, influencers, even pediatricians or doctors. Some people say do one thing, it's the rule. Some people say do another, and the two contradict. Where do you stand as a parent? And please, if you use Google, it's even going to get worse. We'll talk about how confusing it can be to raise a kid while trying to get it right here on Therapy Thursdays on a Wednesday. I'm joined by therapist, social worker, and Gary Direnfeld. He is all three of those things. Gary, welcome to the show.
I love your introductions. And I know that you do them spontaneously, which blows me away, David.
Really? It's a lot of practice, and they're not that good. Yep. See, you didn't see me like trying introductions as a hobbyist broadcaster for 10 years in the mirror and being terrible at it. So you're like, wow, he just said that?
I thought he was a natural.
No, I get mad when people, not that I think I'm this natural, but occasionally people who are misinformed like you say I seem like a natural. And I'm like, you weren't there when I was fumbling and stumbling, but whatever.
Yeah, the truth is, I know that anyone who seems to be unnatural, they put a lot of work into getting there.
I'm sure there are these prodigies out there,
Yeah, but they're actually far and few between.
Exactly.
Most of them, like you, like me, we got to practice, we got to work at it, we got to hone our skill.
Exactly. To the point where I don't even really believe in naturals. For example, I used to do stand-up comedy, and every time I'd think I would see a quote-unquote natural, I'd find out they'd been doing it for 15 years. If I looked them up and I got their clips from 15 years ago, they were as bad as me. There's no shortcut to sounding like you know how to do something. And to think that you're just this natural, I think is a real pitfall for people.
So at this point in my career, I can stand up in front of a group of 5 or 5,000. When I first stood in front of a crowd, it was grade 10. And it was to do not a monologue, but a skit with one other person. And it was in front of, at a school assembly. I froze. I forgot my lines. I froze. The theater arts teacher is behind the curtain, throwing me my lines, and I would mouth the line without any inflection, and I'd forget the next line. It was a disaster, David. So when people say, "Oh, you're such a natural at public speaking," yeah, but that's not where we start. It always takes practice, and coming back to parenting, that takes practice too.
In 11th grade, I was in drama class and I had to give a monologue when we were doing like end of year mini plays for our big exam kind of thing.
Yes.
And I went out there and I was so confident, and then there was the crowd, and I screwed up the monologue one sentence in and I lost my place. And I just looked at everybody in the audience and I said, "I'm sorry." And I walked off the stage. So when people are like, "Oh, you can public speak now," it's like, it's not for lack of trying. Let's get on track, Gary. There are so many contradictory pieces of advice that parents get. Or for me growing up, like my mom said one thing, my dad said another. And as a kid, I didn't know what to do. What are some of your favorites? And by favorites, I mean pet peeves.
Well, first of all, parenting starts before pregnancy.
Sure.
How to get pregnant, who to get pregnant with, and all the
what? Okay.
All the advice that goes into that mate selection, if you will.
Oh, I see.
And so, who do you choose? And these days, one of the choices is I don't have to choose a person. I have to select a brand of sperm or egg.
Sure.
So the choices are quite varied. And then during pregnancy, do this, don't do that. Oh, it's okay if you have a beer. Sometimes you need to relax. Versus, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Don't go anywhere near alcohol.
It's so wild that in Europe, one drink is fine. I don't actually know if it is, science aside, but culturally in some countries, it's okay. So I was once at a party in France, and this is a 17-month pregnant woman. She was ready to explode.
17 months?
She was just carrying a beer, talking about how her water was going to break at any minute. I'm like, what is happening right now?
I know. Well, as and then it was, as long as it's a dark beer, because that's more nutritious.
Yeah. I don't want to weigh in on that, but my understanding is that any is bad, but whatever.
So much attention goes into the actual birth experience. And I'm thinking, just get the kid out on time, healthy and well. Whether it comes out slipping this way or that way, at the end of the day, God willing, we just want a healthy child and a healthy mom. So much goes into all these decisions, not unreasonably, but sometimes they're just off the rails.
That brings me to my first topic about conflicting advice. This is one I always hear two opinions on, and I'm not sure there is a right answer other than just calm down when you're having the argument. But letting a baby or a toddler cry it out, like they're upset, we kind of ignore them while they're crying so that they can learn to cope, or we coddle. We never let them cry. That will cause trauma to the child. What's your take on this one? Because I feel like there are two camps here.
Yes.
And it's contradictory advice.
Yes. And so it's not that one is necessarily right and the other wrong. It's always situational and also age dependent. When you have a newborn, we're not going to let them cry it out. The newborn's cry is a signal of distress. They're not crying simply to, if you will, get their attention, the parent's attention. So when the little one is crying, they may need a diaper change. They may need to be fed. And quite frankly, they may need to be coochie-coochie-cooed, entertained. Because even an infant can, in a sense, feel boredom. And so here's this child, they're crying. You give them the breast or the bottle. I don't care which, as long as the child gets fed personally. So you feed the child, but they're not taking the nipple and they're continuing to fuss. You check the diaper. And you see this in new parents. The quickest way to check the diapers, you flip the child over and you smell their bum.
Lovely. Lovely, Gary. Thank you for that.
That's the sign of a good parent. But let's say it's not a dirty diaper. Then you want to provide some stimulation to the child. Coochie, coochie, coo. You think you're distracting the child and hoping the distraction settles the child. It's actually the stimulation that's settling the child, because the child was kind of bored. I need to be entertained. I need to be stimulated. When that child becomes a toddler, I don't want to go to bed, and I'm crying, and I don't like this toy. I want that toy. First of all, they're dealing with shifting between their needs and wants and expectations. That is hard for a toddler. It really is. So we can use a more gentle approach, oh, sweetheart, and help the child to understand through. And here's a bugaboo of mine. Some parents will talk to their child at a level of sophistication that is just beyond the child's capacity to understand. And so the child continues to fuss because they hear the words, but all it is blah, 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 blah. Why don't I not still have my toy?
Sure.
So simple explanations, please, when you're talking to that toddler. But there are times when you can just hold your toddler, let them cry, but you're soothing them and you're calm at the same time.
We've always seen that kid in public who immediately starts to cry when they don't get, the candy bar. Mom and dad gives the kid what they want, and the kid immediately transforms back to a happy kid. It was so clear they were faking, and they learned that a little bit of crying noise gets them what they want. I think in those cases, letting them cry it out may be a good thing. But beyond that, I think it's either or.
Yeah, we can literally train children to whine, and we'll talk about that.
We're here with Gary Direnfeld. It's Therapy Thursdays on a Wednesday. Contradictory parenting advice is our topic, and we'll come back with more wild ones in a minute.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
Oh, such a clutch pickup, Dave.
I was worried we'd bring back the same team.
I meant those blackout motorized shades.
Blinds.com made it crazy affordable to replace our old blinds.
Hard to install?
No, it's easy. I installed these and then got some for my mom, too. She talked to a design consultant for free and scheduled a professional measure and install.
Hall of Fame son.
They're the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings in the world.
Blinds.com is the GOAT.
The GOAT.
Save up to 50% with minimum purchase at Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Broadcasting from the intersection of chaos and more chaos. The Last Show with David Cooper.
It is Therapy Thursdays on a Wednesday. Gary Direnfeld is here, and I have some advice for you, Gary. Please start talking. Also, please stop talking. Welcome to the show.
I had a music teacher. We'd hit the wrong notes, and he'd show his hand as if to say, stop, stop, stop. We'd play again, and he'd pull at his hair, and then he'd show his hand as if to say, give me more, give me more, give me more. We'd play again, and then he'd stop us, and one hand would say stop, and the other hand would be motioning towards himself as if to say go, and we got those contradictory messages from our music teacher. You just reminded me of that beautiful memory. Ellis McClintock. This is back in the 1970s. He was such a great teacher.
Great. We're shouting out a random person. Fantastic content, Gary. Great. No, I'm kidding. Contradictory parenting advice is what we were discussing. Here's one I like. Free range kids, like let your kid go out into the world, hurt themselves, meet whoever, whatever, deal with their own problems on their own in public. It'll help them build their confidence. And the other one is helmet, leash, knee pads, elbow pads, tracker, GPS tracking thing on their arm, parental lock on the phone. Everything they ever do on the computer is monitored. These are two kind of schools of thought, and they are contradictory.
Oh, totally. And they are so polarized and polarizing between people. If a bell curve, right? So he's got these two thin tails on one side and the big bubble in the middle. Most people are in that bubble in the middle. There are those who are on the tails, the smaller number of people on either side of the bell curve. And so that's what you're discussing here. And here's the rub. As soon as you get to the tail of the bell curve, one way or the other, you are typically going to see a rise in problems of the kid. So if you are too much this way or too much that way, it is like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Oh, this one is just right. And that's what we're looking for in parenting as well. And here's the thing. When you are somewhere in that mushy middle in terms of parenting, so not too strict, not too laissez-faire either, as per that free range parenting develops a sense of forgiveness. It's like a cookie dough. When you use good ingredients, if you're making that cookie dough and one ingredient is a little off, the cookies still turn out well. Okay? Same with parenting. Overall, assuming neurotypical kids in a reasonable environment, I'm talking to the masses right now. So this is what we want to do. That free-range kid may not grow up feeling a sense of responsibility, feeling a sense of accountability, and that, can lead into the dreaded narcissism, or if not narcissism, egocentricity. And when I say egocentricity, it's I get to do what I want, when I want, how I want it. And I've chatted with those children come adults. They have problems in their marital relationships because they are treating the marital relationship as a context in which they can do what they want, when they want, as they want, versus considering the impact of their choices on their partner. And then I look at those who were so restricted that now they're trying to control their partner as well. And if their partner is looking for a degree or two of freedom in the relationship, they don't know how to manage that.
Mm-hmm.
So parenting has long-term impacts.
Yeah.
I wanted to use the word consequences. I'll use the word impacts. It really does. It's like, a rocket goes from the launch pad and then it has a trajectory. And typically our parenting is the trajectory into our adult life. So you want to be mindful of that.
I want to introduce a term here, false dichotomy. It's a fancy way of saying you've separated these things into two categories that don't overlap, when in reality, they do overlap. I think there is a balance between letting your kids be free, explore, build their confidence, and kind of putting guardrails, or I don't want to use the word monitoring because that sounds like a little bit too controlling, but put some healthy guardrails. Do force your kid to wear a helmet, but maybe let them go bike at the end of the street and don't watch them for a minute. That's fine too,
There was a television comedy show with Michael J. Fox when he was a kid. I forget the name of the show. And he was fighting for that independence from his mother. I think he was going off to college finally. And he said, come on, you got to let me go sometime. You let me go to school, on my own. I was able to walk to school on my own. And that parent said to him in this particular episode,
family ties, was it?
That's it. Family ties. And the parent, I'm trying to remember her name. It escapes me. Anyways, she said, but what you didn't know was that I followed you, and I was behind every bush along the way, making sure that you arrived safely.
Ooh, there's the balance. There's the over-monitoring and the sense of freedom. It's the perfect thing. So just secretly spy on your kids? I don't know what the lesson is here.
Look, you're going to start giving your kids more independence, but yes, you're going to keep half an eye on them to make sure that they are safe. You can't be that parent that instead of letting them experiment and explore and open their environment, instead be that parent who allows that to happen, but you are providing somewhat of a safety net.
Do you have a favorite, or I guess the best way to look at it is least favorite piece of contradictory parenting advice that you hear where some people think one thing, some people think the other, and it's war sometimes?
Oh, absolutely. Between a consequence such as timeout. So these days, oh my goodness, timeout. Timeout to some people is like beating a child. No, it's just time away from anything that's particularly reinforcing. You're giving a child a break. You're giving them an opportunity to cool down. So, a consequence versus always negotiating with them. I can tell you, I have interviewed a number of 6 to 8-year-olds, even 5 to 8-year-olds who are whiny, who carry on, and the parent thinks that there is something inherently wrong with the child. Take them to the social worker. And I chat with the child. I said, that whining, does it work for you? And the child looks at me proudly. Yup. How so? I get what I want. Like it's a strategy by that age. Yet the parent thinks that there's something wrong with the child. There's nothing wrong with the child. The child has figured out how to work the parent. And the parent, rather than recognizing that and just setting a limit, boundary, and expectation, and where appropriate a consequence, is continuing to negotiate.
Patience that you can learn from timeouts as a kid. Like as an adult, when something seems so urgent, you need to address it right now or the world will end. But actually a cool down, maybe sleeping on it is the best thing to do. Like that's a skill you got to have as an adult.
Yes. What we want to bring to that child, no matter what we do, is our calm and our patience, so that our kids can borrow, in a sense, our calm to help them settle down. So most often in parenting, it's less about managing and controlling the child. If you're going to concentrate on something in parenting, manage yourself first.
Well, what you, Gary Direnfeld, social worker, bring to this show on Therapy Thursdays on a Wednesday, no matter what you do, is your calm and your patience, but also your wisdom. So thank you for being here, my friend. I appreciate you.
Great to be with you again.
That's a wrap on tonight's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Do not forget to check out this program as a podcast. Just head to www.lastshow.pizza. That's lastshow.pizza, not .com. And there you can find out details of the podcast and how to subscribe. And to you, I will impart this sage-like wisdom. Never let an enemy cut your hair. That is, unless you want terrible bangs. I'm David Cooper. This is, well, it's not the first show. We'll be back tomorrow.
Well, you've heard me on the radio and you've listened to my podcast. Well, now you can watch me on YouTube for thought-provoking conversation, fearless interviews that you won't get anywhere else. The Ben Mulroney Show every single day. So go to YouTube, subscribe to The Ben Mulroney Show, and never miss an episode.